Hey, welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you're doing well out there. You know, one of the parts that really sucks about your team being 1-5 is that the stuff just never stops. Like that, Tua stuff aside, but now you got the vultures circling with the whole fire sale, and now we have reached the point, which is a delight when you are on the hunt and you're trying to have your team make a big swing or a big free agent move, but it really sucks when you're on the other end of it. And we have reached cryptic social media BS rumor time. And this is gonna make me crazy. Okay. So boots on the gram, Jaylen Waddle, Miami Dolphins star receiver, has made a post on Instagram, and it is basically just a collage of his Dolphin photos. And he doesn't post on social media a ton when it's not an ad. Like, he's usually a guy who just, posts it. Now, he does post like stories and whatnot, but as far as like an official post, not so much. And he has a collage. It's him in the rival uniforms, then him just walking to the plane. And then there's this cool photo of him with the Bill at the Bills game for a night game. And then there's kind of like him, with the night sky in the background. Beautiful photos. And it's just a ... caption. So do with that what you will. There's there's no real comment. There's people looking at, and you got the googly eyes going everywhere with Jaylen Waddle, and I don't like that at all. And this just sucks. It really, really sucks. Now, I don't know what to make of it because there's people claiming on social media that he removed Miami Dolphins from his bio. I got to tell you, look, I don't know if I believe that. And I'll tell you a couple reasons why. One, that's always a fishy one that people like, oh, he must have, it's not there, so it must have been there past. I don't know that it was ever there. I haven't paid enough attention to Jaylen Waddle's Instagram. Maybe somebody else has, but I couldn't tell you today if Tua has that in his bio, if Jalen Phillips has that in his bio. So I wouldn't know if Jaylen Waddle had that in his bio. That kind of sounds like some, pardon my French, stirring on social media. So I don't know if I buy that. And there's a reason I don't know if I buy it, and that's because if I go to his Twitter account, which Waddle is pretty active on, not super active, but he will every once in a while throw up there. He's got a dolphin emoji still on his bio. So if he was really going to go through a cleanse, first of all, two things are a classic making a stink cleanse. One, you archive all the Dolphins photos, you make a full clean sweep, and then you got to make sure you get all social medias. So I don't think I'm buying that Jaylen Waddle is making a stink about that, but I actually think this could actually, and maybe I'm delusional right now, I actually think this could be a good thing where it's like, hey, he likes it here and he's just putting it out there. Like, hey, the memories here, the things that I've done here, I enjoy here. And so maybe that's the reason why, because there's been a lot of reflections, a lot of tough times. And, I don't necessarily take this as a goodbye, but I could be dead ass wrong because yesterday, as I was broadcasting the red, white, and pink game for the Miami Heat scrimmage on QAM, the rumors were hot and heavy. Giants, Bills, Patriots. And I think once it got to the division, guys, like that really kind of like, ooh, that was a gut punch for me because I was sitting there and I was like, okay, could I really stomach a world where Jaylen Waddle is waddling for Patriots fans, is waddling for Bills fans? And that was a tough one to really read because I will say, look, Jaylen Waddle has definitely lived a pretty charmed life as far as his Dolphins. He's very well compensated, but he's also always been like kind of universally loved. He doesn't really face that much criticism. It's always been Tua, Tyreek, Mike McDaniel, and Jaylen Waddle's kind of just the beloved little brother of all of it, which he seems like an awesome dude. I love the Waddle. I love when he does fins for the win. He just has great bits. He's an entertaining ass player. Whenever he makes a cool catch, he's like very demonstrative and like how he's like doing the first down thing. I just think he's cool. Jaylen Waddle is cool. And so I think that just buys him a lot with everybody. Just seems like a genuine dude. Doesn't try to be anybody that he's not. And yes, did he have a bad play last week where he gave up a turnover? 100%. Has he had that happen before in big games with playoffs or whatever? Yes, of course. But ultimately, I think if you were to talk about like approval rating amongst Dolph fans, the dude is really, really loved. And that is one of the parts that really sucks about all this, is that now the buzzards are like, hey, when did the Dolphins pull the grenade on this puppy and blow it to smithereens? Now, I don't know what the right compensation is back for the Dolphins to even consider that, because I feel like you got to have your socks knocked off for something like that. Even like Chris Greer, terrible this job as he may be, was asked when he was asked about Tyreek Hill in the summer, or maybe it was the spring, I don't recall. But he was like, yeah, I mean, like, I'll trade Tyreek Hill for like 2 first-round picks. Now, no one's going to give that for Jaylen Waddle. But a first-round pick, if you could get one of the bottom teams potentially in the league, that the bottom drafting teams in the league, so one of the better teams in the league, that's probably how I should have said it, who would want to part with their first round, yeah, okay, then you got to consider it for sure, right? But just, even I was seeing like, oh, a second round pick for Jaylen Waddle. It's like, that's all right. It's not nothing, but ugh, like it leaves you feeling dirty, especially with him being in his extension and, some of the dead money that would still be there. I was reading like it's still pretty hefty. And look, if the Dolphins are going to go this route, they're going to probably go all the way. Like it's going to be 2019 all over again. Just terrible, I would think, unless the Dolphins are going to go like there's paths that the Dolphins could go here where it's just like, hey, blow this sucker up, completely redo it. There could be, hey, we close the Mike McDaniel Tua era, we find some rebound QB on the cheap skis, or we draft somebody that we really like, and that's our path. That's kind of like what the Giants are doing, right? And you keep your talented guys like Waddle and Achane and see if Tyreek can come back, and, maybe somebody can use all of this talent and figure things out, and you got your defense growing a little bit more. Like, there are those paths the Dolphins could go as well. It's just, you very clearly can't. You cannot run it back. Like, okay, that much is clear, right? This is heading towards disaster. It's probably the end of an era, but are there enough tools left in the toolbox that you could actually build this into something if you were to move on from the coach and quarterback at a certain point, right? Like if you were to just rip the Band-Aid off, move in another direction, and that will give you some semblance. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. You would probably want to keep Jaylen Waddle in that case. But it is interesting that all this is circling around the ether. The guys that do make sense to deal are on the defensive side. Like the Jalen Phillips thing and the Bradley Chubb thing, like that's if Judon is off, if Darren Waller wants to hop onto a contender and you can get any kind of draft capital, like those are the types of moves that make sense. It's not that the Waddle thing is completely off the table to me. I get it, but I think you got to be blown away for a deal for him or Achane or somebody like that if you're going to move in that type of direction. But no doubt, like this is the other part that they're having to deal with because this stuff's not going anywhere. Everybody's salivating, waiting to feast at the bones that is the Miami Dolphins, and so everything is going to be a thing. The jersey photoshops. I know Waddle said today in the locker room that he can ignore most of that stuff, that he's only going to hear from his agent on that type of stuff. And I believe him. I think that type of stuff is true. I think those guys it's not so much like the stinker stuff. Like when you're being awful. Like I saw Jalen Phillips this week. He said that after the game last week, he had to delete X and he had to delete social media just because it was just getting to be too much. But he's in a different place than Jaylen Waddle. You know, he's a guy who's had vast injuries over his career. He's in the last year of his deal. And I think somebody could be like, oh, he can add something to us. And that one kind of makes sense because, like, are you going to pay another pass rusher? It's like, nah, you probably want Chop Robinson to be the dude. Like, that's the guy you're going to hope you can develop, and we'll see what happens. You know, Bradley Chubb moving in another direction makes some sense. Now, you know, you're lopping off whatever credible leadership you have in the locker room because of where things are with Tua Tagovailoa right now, which do not seem great. But yeah, this is the unfortunate part in the biggest way. Um, and the other thing that sucks about it, if you're a Dolphins fan, is who do you trust with this stuff right now, right? Like you're already at the point where you want everybody to go in a new direction. And it's like, do you trust Chris Greer to do this stuff? Like who is the person that is going to be in charge of putting things in their proper place? So that's another conundrum that you have to deal with all of this stuff. It doesn't feel good right now, and it stinks, but it is what it is when you're at this record. Like it kind of comes with the territory.